Hi, everyone. I'd like to do a shout out to our sponsor, Baco Diagnostics. Early detection is the single most important factor in improving patient outcomes. The Baco Diagnostics team recognizes how impactful a podiatric physician can be and remains committed to supporting you in your role as the first line of defense in diagnosing conditions of the lower extremity. Thanks to the unwavering support of their clients, Baco Diagnostics has been able to give back to the podiatric community for 16 years by providing podiatric educational resources and advocating for the position. Baco Diagnostics, helping podiatric physicians keep America on its feet. If you have not yet had the opportunity to utilize Baco Diagnostics services, get started today by sending an email to corporaterations@bacodiagnostics.com. The first 50 podiatry offices who request a starter kit will receive a Dean's Chat mug. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Dean's Chat, where we discuss all things podiatric medicine. My name is Dr. Jeffrey Jensen. I'm the Dean at the Arizona College of Podiatric Medicine and the host for the Dean's Chat podcast. Once again, I am joined by my co-host, Dr. Joanna Richey. Hi, Joe.
Hey, Jeff. How you doing?
I am doing fabulous. I'm in my new studio at the house today.
It is looking fantastic. And I have to ask about all the purposeful things in the background, one of which has a really unique story.
Oh, my little hammer. My son gave me that when he graduated from high school, and it says, "Thank you for molding me." So it's pretty cool.
Oh, love it, right?
It is awesome.
That's awesome.
Well, Joe, we've got a phenomenal guest today. We got a lot of bases to cover. I want to introduce to our audience, Dr. Narendra Patel from the Chicagoland area. Welcome to Dean's Chat, Dr. Patel.
Joe and Jeff, thank you very much. Pleasure to be here.
Well, Dr. Patel, we're fairly informal on Dean's Chat, and if we could go with first names, Narendra and Joanna and Jeff, that'd be awesome.
Absolutely, please.
Well, I've got a whole list of things we got to talk about, Narendra, but where I wanted to start was you are the scientific chair of the Midwest Podiatry Conference. Back about, 2-3 weeks ago, they celebrated their 75th anniversary. And, I've never been a scientific chair of a conference. And when you and I were talking about some of the plans for it, it sounded like a full-time job to me. So I was hoping maybe you could share with our audience, what it's like to be a scientific chair at a major conference?
Well, first of all, it was an absolute honor. I was on the planning committee for a couple of years prior to that, and Dr. Katie LaViolette was the previous past chairman, who was the co-chair with John Grady, who ran the meeting for probably the last 20 years. And motherhood came for her. And at that time, the timing was literally, she was due roughly around the time of the conference. And so the year that I was on the subcommittee, I kind of stepped up my game a little bit. I helped out a little bit. And then the next year, when she stepped down, they asked me to take over, and I was absolutely delighted. It's an absolute dream of mine to be there, being in Chicago for the last 28 years and going to that conference and never missing it. It's always been an amazing responsibility. And yeah, you're right. It takes a lot of work. It was literally full time, but I had a lot of help. So, I definitely want to give out lots of props, but yeah, it's been fantastic.
So how many attendings were there this year?
We were a little less than last year. We had close to 600. We had a little bit over 600 the year prior. But unfortunately, we were competing with a lot of online stuff. I think Present or somebody was doing the online thing at that time, and there was another local Chicago meeting the week prior. So it hurt our numbers a little bit, but it's okay. It was a new location, new renovated hotel, and there's a lot of exciting things. And I think that the people that did not go are certainly going to regret when they see all the stuff that we promote afterwards.
No, that's fabulous. Joe, just putting on events at the school, even like half-day events is huge. I can't imagine trying to get all the different tracks and all the different speakers, and some of it's online, some of it's not. It's just phenomenal.
Yeah, absolutely. And coordinating all those people and multiple days. And yeah, that's what a huge round of applause for you. That's really outstanding.
I appreciate that. Like I said, it's teamwork. We have a fantastic meeting planner, Dana Rigdon from her company, and she really is the backbone that just kept all the glues together, and her staff are phenomenal. And then, of course, I got to give props to my subcommittee. We have Dr. Patrick DeHere, you guys know very well, Melissa Lockwood, Kelsey Milanig, and Paul Lance. And we basically had representatives from the three remaining founding members of the Midwest Podiatry Conference. So basically Iowa, Illinois, and Indiana. So they helped tremendously. So there's a lot of history there if you want to talk about that.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind it because even, back in the day, when I was a resident, Kern Hospital and Dr. Cannett, a lot of the folks from there were involved in the Midwest. Montgomery for a while, I believe. Is that correct?
I'm not sure about Montgomery, but we had a hard time tracking down everybody. I mean, this was a daunting task just to get, because we wanted to invite a lot of the past presidents of, the executive council and yeah, I mean, we try to get as many people back as possible.
That's incredible. So Joe, your thoughts on meetings and Narendra, I'd like to touch base on some of these online competing entities also, because there's only so many credits to go around. And now that we're out of COVID and the online CME is in play, it does hurt attendance sometimes. What do you think the future is there?
Is that me or are you going?
Joe, your thoughts first.
Yeah.
Well, so having just come back from the American College of Foot and Ankle Surgeons in person, it was here in Phoenix, so that made it very convenient. But being in person for some of these things, there is something that you cannot replace virtually, right? And so you had mentioned, Narendra, the history, and this was the 75th year of you guys holding that Midwest. So I would love to hear kind of what you've seen in terms of the evolution, what the history of maybe even how that conference got started, and then where you think we are going in the setting of virtual hybrid options for conferences.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'll tell you, there's one thing that you cannot get from being online sitting in your, plain clothes, and that's the camaraderie that you get and meeting up. And that has been the hallmark of the Midwest Podiatry Conference for all these years that I've gone. It's the place you go, you meet up with your friends and colleagues, and it's in beautiful, downtown Chicago. I mean, the restaurant scene, the bar scene, it's a social event. I mean, it may be academic, but I guarantee you the majority of the people that go there, it's for the social. You can't beat that.
Yeah.
There's nothing you're going to do online that's ever going to give you that. As far as like yeah, go ahead.
I was saying, even when they try to replicate it, like having the virtual exhibit halls, and again, when most of my experience with virtual conferences was during COVID, as everyone else's was, but I am obviously an extroverted person. I prefer in person any chance that I possibly can. And there was something about this meeting this year that really touched home, in that I actually got to meet a lot of students that I taught during COVID. And what was really touching is that connection, but it was a human connection that, I'm so grateful that they would actually come up and say, you may not remember me, but I do remember, all their names were across my screen for, 2 years. And to have that one moment of face-to-face connection, to your point, you can't do that through a screen. At some point, Dr. Patel, when you and I meet in person, it will change that experience that's different than what we're doing now. And it's wonderful that we have these opportunities to engage with each other virtually. But there is something about that human connection of being in person and that social part, that networking is but that connection, that human connection, that, I don't know, something about the screen takes that away.
It does. And, we always purposefully try to end at 5 p.m. so that people can, go get to their happy hour. Everybody goes out to eat. And I'm telling you, the fun is you meet up with all your colleagues and you just hang out and just get to know everybody and just see what's going on in people's lives. And
boy, I echo those sentiments. It's no different than when we were teaching COVID in class. We had distancing, we had masks, we had barriers, and then there were no students around. And it's so different when everybody's back and in labs and working together. So kudos, Narendra. Kudos to Dana Rigdon and her team too. Just phenomenal work. You mind if I shift gears a little bit? I wanted to touch base a little bit on your history. You currently have a part of a four practice group in the Chicagoland area. You had gone to the New York College of Podiatric Medicine. You did 3 years of residency under Guido Laporta, which I'd love to hear more about that. You're board certified by the American Board of Foot and Ankle Surgeons. You're the vice president of the American Microsurgical Orthoplastic Society. You're also faculty at the Ascension St. Joseph Orthoplastic Microneurosurgical Fellowship, and you are historically trauma section editor, JFAS, 2007 to 2024. So usually when I see people with those credentials, they're not so busy in practice, but you seem to do both.
Yeah, I extend myself in all different places. But you will see the general theme for all of that is educating. And I'll tell you, the roots in educating, I give that 100% to Dr. Laporta. I mean, he just, got us so engaged, and the one-on-one interactions that we used to have, and just to learn. And he's just a tremendous mentor and teacher. And I think he just instilled a lot of those good values. And then, when I came out at that time, back in 1997, doing the kind of things that he was doing, I mean, we first put on our own, the very first external fixation frame when I was his resident. I mean, this is like now all the kids, I'll say, think it's nothing to put a fixator on, but, somebody had to start it. And, he and a group of his friends went out, and I'm sure you can talk to him about all that. But anyway, so just the education part of it is so important. And I keep doing that. You see from my CV that I've given tons and tons of, lectures, and it's just crazy. I mean, I try to do as much as possible. I would start with little meetings with different companies, and I'd ask them, hey, listen, and this was more for practice building too, but say, hey, let me throw on a talk and you guys pay for it, whatever. And then we started progressing from there. And I started running some controversy things from smaller groups. So it just kind of progressed from there. And then when we got part of the AMOS group, which is what you had mentioned, AMOS is actually the educational, it's a society basically for teaching all these new techniques that we're learning on peripheral nerve, on orthoplastics, and all these things. And the educational arm of that is the CLES meeting. And so this is a meeting that's been, I think we're going to be in our 18th year minus COVID coming up. And so that's another meeting that, we've been tremendously involved in. So education is behind, I love teaching the residents, when they want to learn, of course. And it's just great. I mean, I try to do as much as I can online as well. Yeah, it's what, gives me purpose.
Absolutely. Joe, your thoughts on advancing the profession with surgical skills and mentoring? I mean, there's so much we can talk about here.
Yeah. So the first one that I would love to kind of pick your brain on is Vice President of the American Microsurgical Orthoplastic Society. And looking through your CV, you have been a facilitator for so many of the hands-on skills lab and training sessions. And that's a different experience than delivering a lecture. I'd love for you to talk a little bit about how you got started in that, and then what you've seen develop, especially in regards to something like microsurgery and orthoplastics.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I remember early on when I was worked with the Scholl College and helping out with like a suturing lab and doing with their FACFAs student association, and just, I just enjoyed it. And I so hated the fact that we did not have a residency program in our hospital. They were very staunch about it. And for many years, it took away a lot out of me. So I had to do a lot of my own things to keep up with it and try to find other ways to educate. And eventually we got an affiliation with the Mount Sinai program. So we finally got residents in, and it was great. And then finally with all these hospital mergers and stuff like that, we eventually ended up with the St. Joseph's Hospital, which is the program that I am currently faculty with. And it's great. I've been with them for many years now. And I just love that.
What are your in terms of how we've seen this progression, because we've really exploded in the field of peripheral nerve surgery as foot and ankle surgeons. How did all of that really kind of start, and in your own experience, and where do you think we're going with that?
Yeah, so how did I progress with all these teaching opportunities and stuff like that? I always found that to be the most enjoyable, is to do the hands-on things. And so when we had the opportunity to form this meeting, this class meeting, it literally was lectures and then cadavers. And it was one-on-one teaching. And then over the years, as we progressed and we learned all these new techniques and all these crazy muscle flaps and stuff, that it sort of came out of necessity, because if you look at many of the programs and places out there, plastic surgeons don't want to do limb salvage. They don't, and ortho does not want to do it. There's nobody. So it's a niche that we can fill beautifully. I mean, many states allow us to go up to the leg and do soft tissue work. So to now be able to take a chunk of muscle and flap it down and not have a plastic surgeon to do it, these are the skills that we are learning, and I enjoy teaching all those. And along that line, probably about maybe say 10 years ago, we invited Dr. Duchik. He is a plastic surgeon, neurosurgeon, and he had started multiple papers basically on different microsurgical techniques in treating painful neuromas, essentially. And that just kind of exploded with Dr. Rodriguez, myself. We both just took that up upon ourselves, and we ran with it. And playing under a microscope, I used to love doing that. In fact, I have a picture that I always show in one of my nerve lectures, is a picture of me and Dr. Laporta sitting under a microscope. And so this is like 1996. So, I mean, I loved peripheral nerves way back in that day. And so when it finally came to the new current techniques and technology, I'm just completely fascinated by it. And it's a big part of my practice to do that. And I try to teach it, and I try to tell the kids, and, in these lectures, is like, listen, it's the next exam thing that you were never taught. You're taught to do a sensory exam, but you're not taught to do a pain exam. And I try to shift people's focus on that. It's like, when they're coming in, don't just look at the sprained ankle, see if they have maybe a nerve involved, and just kind of open your eyes like that. And once you start doing that, once you see it, you will not unsee it. And it's one of those things, and my favorite quote from Dr. Harkless, who was at our meeting, is the eyes only see what the mind knows. And so if you don't look for it, you're just not going to see it. So that's kind of how it all happened. And doing all these hands-on things. And, I run Saturday labs with the residents when I can, and we try to do as much as possible.
And, it's such an interesting field, because it's another one, to me, much like arthroscopy, where there's a different kind of skill set that you have to foster. And like microsurgical instrumentation is totally different than standard surgical instrumentation. Sometimes the reverse is like you actually close something to open it, and the finesse that it takes for those skills. In your experience, do you think it's useful for someone to have experience under their belt before they start exploring nerve surgery? Or do you think even at the resident level, this is something that is a useful thing to start in their practice?
Well, I think it's something that requires a lot of background training. Not every program does more complex stuff. I think most programs will go the basics, your Morton neuromas, your tarsal tunnels, but even then there's a lot more finesse that goes along with it. I think people interested in doing this really do need to take additional courses, and to seek out these types of conferences that offer these type of experiences. I know there's the American Extremity Nerve Surgeons course that's out there that I've had the opportunity to lecture to them, and it's good. You go out there and you're teaching, and they do a good job in promoting and trying to get people to understand just how to do these microsurgical things. There's also, I want to say, up at Mayo in Rochester, they have a course just for podiatry on learning microsurgical skills. So there's lots of places. Duke has a program, Cornell has a program where you can actually go and learn how to suture vessels on rats, live rats.
Yeah. They have one in San Francisco as well.
Yes.
The Mowat Institute. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. And all these are the types of places that you need to seek out. I mean, if this is something you're passionate about, you're probably not going to get it in your residency. So you do need to seek out other places. And then once you get it, you just start looking for it. And then you try to find programs that offer that a lot. And, I think more and more programs are starting to recognize it. So yeah, that's where I would go.
Excellent. Thank you.
Narendra, could you elaborate a little bit on the CLES? You said CLES courses. That's an acronym, and kind of explain what somebody that would go to one of those meetings experiences, because it sounds incredible.
Sure. So CLES was actually started. It's a not-for-profit foundation. It's the Chicago Lower Extremity Surgical Foundation, And Dr. Rodriguez is basically the lead for that, and he runs mission trips to Mexico. And once that was started, he felt that he wanted to start a meeting, and then that's sort of how it all started. So it's the Chicago Lower Extremity Surgical Symposium, and the requirement for that meeting is you are not allowed to let us know what your titles are. We don't care. We don't care where you're from. If you're from, and he has a lot of Latin American colleagues, and we've had people from Israel come, we've had people from Egypt come, and all these, fantastic speakers and just teaching us this. And you're not going to learn stuff at any other conference like you learn at ours. I mean, there's no course out there that's teaching you orthoplastics. There's no course out there teaching the complex peripheral nerve surgery. And this has all been an evolution. What started off as just complex stuff and just like-minded physicians who don't care the degrees. We just want to make sure that everyone understands and is treating all the different foot and ankle pathologies the best way possible. And we have learned so much from each other. Oh my God, unbelievable. They've taught us so much stuff that, we incorporate into our practice now. And the people that are part of our organization, they're doing phenomenal things with limb salvage. I mean, Dr. Masato, University of Cincinnati, he completely turned their program around and reduced their amputation, rates down to significant numbers. And he's part of a VA out there. So great friend of mine, and he's doing phenomenal work out there. And he, again, part of the class. And this is where we all learn these techniques. We were taught by a plastic surgeon, actually. And the interesting story with that is that the plastic surgeon, Dr. Rodriguez, was friends. Well, there's two. Dr. Pedro Rodriguez is the plastic surgeon. He was friends with Dr. Edgardo Rodriguez. And Pedro had approached Edgardo and said, "Hey, can you teach me how to put a frame? Because when I'm doing these flaps, they all need some support, and I just need you to show me how to do this." And so that was the beginning, the genesis of how that started. And so, well, why don't you show me how to do a muscle flap? And then there you go. Now we're doing peroneus, brevis flaps. We're doing hemisoleus flaps. We're doing all these fasciocutaneous, all these fancy words that we weren't even taught. I mean, we're not talking about just doing little random foot flaps and, rhomboids and things like that. And nothing wrong with that. We teach that too. But, this is a higher level skill set. I mean, we really are focused on limb salvage and deformity correction and all the orthopedic stuff that goes with it. It's an intense meeting and an intense cadaver. So, I mean, I am sort of promoting it, but it's all right. Yeah, it's all volunteers. Nobody gets paid.
Really?
Wow.
Narendra, we had Dr. Edgardo Rodriguez on the podcast about a year ago, and he shared some fascinating thoughts on training residents, training fellows. Love to pick your brain on that a little bit, because as Joe alluded to, it's one thing to be a resident and have a limited surgical knowledge. It's another thing to be a fellow, right? It's another thing to be out into practice where you're trying to learn things. So do you see the whole spectrum at these meetings? And really, I wanted to specifically dive into the fellowship, if you would.
Yes. So the fellowship was great. We trained Dr. Oxman, Dr. Ward, Dr. Schnack, and Dr. Chen. And then Dr. Rodriguez was slowing down in his practice. And so we have not taken a fellow since. But when the fellows were there, and I'm not sure if he's going to again or not, but we certainly have enough volume now that we could certainly support that so that we can get back. But the residents are still learning. I mean, the cases that I would have given to the fellow, now the residents get to do it. So we're still high level of peripheral nerve training in our program so far.
Well, I've been telling people that our students that they should go to your fellowships. I didn't realize you weren't taking students right now, or residents.
Yeah, we haven't, and that's something that I think we still have the opportunity to do so. But a lot of it was affected by the fact that Dr. Rodriguez slowed down.
I gotcha. Okay. Well, I just thought it was a neat fellowship because wasn't it approved by the council and ACFAS? It was like dual approval, if I remember correctly, Joe.
I don't recall. Yeah. I didn't handle that paperwork.
No, that's good. That's good that you didn't have to do that. I started a residency program once, and I was blown away at how much paperwork there was.
Yeah. Well, they've asked me to take over, and I said, absolutely not. I
Oh, you
said,
mean
I'm
the,
the
the fellowship?
educational you want.
Oh, that's funny. All right. Joe, your thoughts?
Yeah, it's another one of those things that I think is just a fun place to highlight too, something that kind of fostered out of the necessity of it, right? Trying to find assistance in this space of limb salvage specifically, running into maybe some road barriers. And again, it's not like I have some amazing plastic surgeons that I've worked with, but to your point, it's not their passion. Like, yeah, they'll help you, but they enjoy doing the things that provide them with really predictable outcomes, and limb salvage doesn't always fit that picture. And so being able to share ideas between each other, like, hey, I need to put a frame on. Can you teach me how to do that? And I'll teach you how to do these flaps. What do you think in terms of the future of education? You'd commented a little bit. You've had international people come to meetings, and you just kind of keep titles out of it. There's been a little bit of an interesting shift with a couple of different companies with this idea of physician to physician train, or surgeon to surgeon training. What do you think moving into the future? We've talked about hybrid and virtual and in person. What do you think is the most successful thing when teaching the higher level of skill sets? We'll say fellows and surgeons, not just residents.
100% hands-on. I mean, you have to
Yeah.
be there. You have to work one-on-one with a physician that, work with a cadaver, and that's the best way to do it. You can only teach so much on a screen. I mean, until you actually will touch that muscle or touch that nerve, you won't know the little nuances and the delicacies involved in how you handle the tissues and, all the different things that come along with it. And it's like, oh, by the way, if you see this, make sure you don't do this. I mean, those are things you can't really always teach. Hands-on, it has to be done. And that's why all these courses like Duke and the California, and, those are very, very important. You need to do that. That has to be part of your skill set. So, yeah, I mean, that's the best way to do it. I mean, I think that, like, learning online is great. The problem is, you're not having professional videographers oftentimes, taking pictures and doing the video. And so you may not capture something that is so simple that is being done that the surgeon is doing, but you don't realize they're doing. But if you're there just one-on-one, in fact, when we first started doing the microscope, I worked with Dr. Rodriguez, and I had a gentleman from Spain that came in, and we both just sat there with a microscope, with the two-sided scope. So we were both looking at this little nerve, and we're both just kind of working on it together. And, hours went by, and we had no clue time went by. I mean, it was literally when you're doing nerve surgery, you're so, like, zoned in. You have to be. Everything gets tuned out. In fact, my assistants, they hate nerve surgeries because they don't feel like they have to do anything. They'd rather see me do the big stuff and pull out the instruments and hammers and external fixators and total ankles and all that stuff, because that's a lot of stuff to do. So they don't like it. I love it. It's okay.
Different kind of focus.
Yeah.
Dr. Patel, let's talk about practice a little bit.
Yeah.
A lot of trends going in, doctors working for hospitals, working for multi-specialty groups. Correct me if I'm wrong, you're part of a 4-office podiatry group, is that correct?
No, actually, I'm with a multi-specialty.
Oh gosh, my apologies.
No,
okay.
No worries. Yeah.
I'd love to hear about it.
Yeah, it's actually a very cool story. So 28 years ago, in my residency, one of the senior residents at the time was graduating, and he went in with an orthopedic group. And so I had gotten to talk to him back then and say, the pros and cons and things like that. And I just said, wow, that's a really cool idea. But now keep in mind the time, 1997, ortho was really not for podiatry in a major way. I mean, even though they've come along only because industry has allowed for it. But back then, and Jeff, you and I would remember this, Yellow Pages. I came home one vacation, went to my yellow book or Yellow Pages and ripped out the section that said physicians, and then looked at orthopedic. And then I did a generic letter, and I sent a letter to every single group in the Chicagoland area and everywhere that I could have thought I wanted to practice. And I only got the response back from one group, and that one group, they weren't ready yet, but they did like the idea. And then after a couple months, I followed back up with them, and they said, you know what, why don't you come on in? And I just presented myself, and I said, look, this is who I am. Honestly, I don't think they knew anything about me other than they just wanted to get a podiatrist because they didn't want to lose the cases. that they had to other local guys. And at that time, my senior partner was actually still doing bunions as a general orthopedic surgeon. And it was great. I mean, the relationship he and I have is phenomenal. He's since retired, but he's still around. But that started that relationship with having a foot and ankle ortho in an orthopedic group that just expanded. And then as we expanded with other specialists that came in, eventually we were big enough that we hired another podiatrist, and then he was full-time. And another major thing for us is rare in other groups is we actually were allowed to be shareholders. So we are full partners in this group, and it's grown to be this multi-center power. We have our own surgery center, our own MRI, PT. We're a one-stop shop for everything that we do, and it's I worked very hard, obviously, to try to build up the practice, and we have a phenomenal reputation. We have always do our surveys, and 75% of our patients are just existing patients or come by word of mouth and friends. So even though we do social media and stuff like that, we've got a good group. But I've had to tackle a lot of things over the years. We weren't allowed to do ankles at the hospital. And so that was something at the three main hospitals I used to work at. And so I had to fight for those privileges. And then there was another local hospital where Walter Alm, a senior podiatrist, he was phenomenal. He helped me get some privileges at another hospital. But we had to fight, and I know that I had to fight for this, but I also have to, give kudos to those before us who weren't even allowed to go into a hospital. So, I think each generation has to sort of push that envelope and, start doing all these things. And so, yeah, it's been a great relationship and a great partnership, and they've never stopped me from doing anything. And when I wanted to do my first external fixator case, nobody questioned me. I was the first to do a total ankle at all my hospitals way back in 2003. This is back when they wouldn't even let you do this. And the cool story with that is that my senior partner, Keith Schroeder, he was a total joint surgeon as well. And at that time, DePuy was only inviting MDs to do the training on. They would not train podiatrists, although they had a select few that either through some connection or whatever, that also got trained. So there were a handful. But so he and I both went to a training course, and then at that training course, my partner, Dr. Schroeder, he just kind of stood there and just sat there. And then I went through the motions. I did their sawbones, and then I did the cadaver, and I listened to them. And at the end, the guy's like, I'm going to certify you. And that was the genesis of getting total ankle in 2003 when nobody was doing them in Chicago as a podiatrist. So amazing stuff. So it's been a great relationship, and we have a phenomenal group. My partners, we get along very well. My podiatry partners. Some of my orthos, I don't, but that's a whole different story.
Joe, this is like a growth mindset scenario. Narendra, it's incredible because think about that time you tore that yellow page out, and you just send out information about yourself, and it only takes one, right?
Yeah,
that's what happened.
That's right.
Wow, I just love that story. Just a little side note: when I finished my residency in '93, I went to Denver, Colorado, and it was the generation just before me that fought for privileges in hospitals. Because they used to do Highlands Hospital. And then when I moved out there, I just applied for privileges, and standing on the shoulders of those before me, I just got granted privileges. So then people need to push the limits like you did. So I just think it's fascinating because our profession is so young, but we've come so far. It's incredible.
Oh, absolutely. And the stuff that we're able to do now, I mean, I truly feel that we should be doing below knee amputations. And I think that's the progression of our profession, because we are limb salvage. And you saw how we promoted that at the Midwest Conference with the whole diabetic day. And I'll talk about that if you want. But there's just no reason. Nobody wants to do below knee amputations. But we are the limb salvage surgeon. So why don't you just let us do that? And I think I wish there was just unity amongst, all the states in privileging, and God, I hope I get to see that in my lifetime, that we get to that point of parity. But To be able to do that, that would complete you as a podiatric foot and ankle surgeon. I think to do that, to take the continuity of care for your diabetic patient all the way to that level, unfortunately, if it had to.
Absolutely. I think there was a famous orthopedic surgeon who once said sometimes the best orthopedic procedure is a below the knee amputation.
I've heard that.
And absolutely. Well, that's fantastic. Hey, let's talk about that diabetes day or section of the Midwest Podiatry Conference. You brought in Dr. Harkless, you brought in Dr. Armstrong, Dr. Lavery, Dr. Steinberg. It was like luminaries in the field.
Absolutely. So during my we had externships back. I guess you guys call them clerkships. So we had during our externship, my good friend Scott Pickett and I, we were both classmates. We drove all the way from New York City all the way to San Antonio, Texas, to do our program, to spend our month out there. And at that time, Harkless was the program director. And I don't know at what stage all those other guys were, either if they were residents or fellows, or I don't know if they had fellows back then, but I just remembered all three of those names, or all four of those names. And when I was coming up with the ideas for this meeting, and I mean, this is, anniversary, 75 years, and our theme was past, present, future. So I'm like, God, wouldn't it be great if I can get Harkless and the team to come up? And so I got Dr. Armstrong's phone number and reached out, emailed, and I said, listen, I want to pitch this to you and see what you guys think. And unbelievable. Instantly, they all responded, said, yep, we'll be there. And then I said, well, I'm going to need a little help from you guys. Can you, I don't know what the current topics are. I says, well, what are you guys lecturing on? I'm not following all of you. So, tell me what you guys want to speak on. And the very next day, Dr. Lavery sends me an email. The entire day schedule was written, and he assigned topics to every single person. And so,
I love it.
I mean, unbelievable. So I got them. And then of course, I told Larry, I said, you have to give the keynote, and you have to give a history of where we were, where we are, and the beautiful ending with Dr. Armstrong and where we're going with AI and all this other stuff. I mean, that entire day, I mean, we've had glowing reviews about that day. So that's how that came to be.
Well, it takes good leadership. I mean, it was your phone call to Dr. Harkless and Armstrong, and next thing you know, Larry Lavery sends you the itinerary, and boom.
Yeah, it's amazing. Dr. Harkless, hit the memory on that guy is unbelievable. He remembered me. I mean, I had met him over the years, and so we sort of kind of kept in touch. But yeah, just the fact that they wanted to do it, and they were so thankful to be invited and honored. And I know those guys speak everywhere, so but it was special to me.
You can't get them all in the same room, though. That was well done.
Thank you. Yeah.
Maybe it's a good time to acknowledge our sponsor, Baco Diagnostics. We all know that early detection is the most important determination in improving patient outcomes. Baco Diagnostics remains committed to supporting you in your role as the first line of defense in diagnosing lower extremity pathologies. Baco Diagnostics, helping podiatric physicians keep America on its feet. Narendra, I don't have to tell you how much Baco's given back to our profession over the years. Students, residents, practitioners. Joe and I are just so excited to have them as a sponsor.
No, absolutely. We thank them immensely. I mean, they certainly have been for many years great sponsors for us, and yeah, we totally appreciate their involvement.
Absolutely. So Joe, what do you think should we do some rapid fire questions or something with Dr. Narendra?
Oh, not yet, because I have a question for him.
Okay.
So there's been a couple things that you've touched on throughout this interview today that I absolutely love, like the keys of our show that we love to ask people about. So you've talked a lot about this idea of everyone is kind of an ambassador, whether you really want to or not. You are representing your profession. And I loved your story about, I know what I'm capable of. I know what I'm well trained in, and I'm going to stand behind it. What advice would you have for young doctors that are going out into the world? They feel confident in their skill set. They know what they're capable of. They know when to ask for help and where to look for it. What advice would you give to them when they're trying to continue to blaze these trails?
The first thing I always do with all my residents is when they leave is they all have obviously my cell phone number, and I encourage them that please, you have secure WhatsApp, reach out. If you have a case and you want to do something, just reach out. I want to be your mentor there. And they've taken that opportunity, and it's great. It's so important to maintain that relationship. And I try to tell them to stay in their lane. Don't try to do things. Don't be cowboys. Uh, you- and I say that because I was a cowboy myself, but I just felt that I had some good training to back me up. But and not to say that the kids aren't getting good training and can do stuff, but we just live in a different environment now, and I try to really instill upon them that you really need to, especially now with board collections, you have to make sure you're doing everything properly. I say do everything by the book. If you saw me do something really cool and innovative and different, don't go out there and do that. Because if something goes wrong, you're not going to be able to support yourself. So I always say, whatever you do, make sure you have absolute literature to back it up. So don't try anything. Once you get board certified and you want to start, dabbling a little bit here and there, go for it. So I really just try to encourage them to do that.
I think that's really good advice too, because again, it's this idea of continuing to expand and grow, a growth mindset, as Jeff pointed out, but also being what did Dr. Loader called the confidence curve. It's not a learning curve, right? It's a like, what am I comfortable doing and what am I comfortable pushing that envelope on? And if you don't have some of the expertise behind you to back up pushing those envelopes, it can get a little prickly or potentially put yourself into, a position you don't want to be in. So I really appreciate that feedback. Again, just, we wouldn't be where we are if the historians before us didn't push a little bit and didn't stand up for what they could do. But at the same time, clearly they were doing it with good technique, good skill, and good outcomes, or we wouldn't be here. And so, as we hear young people come out and it's great that there's a lot of confidence there. How do we kind of find this really sweet spot, if you will, of, to your point, don't go out there and be a renegade and a cowboy and let's get successful outcomes, get board certification, get these criteria to back you up, and have people on your boat to support you as you continue to kind of blaze new trails. So I appreciate that feedback very much. Now we can venture into some of the fun rapid fire kind of questions, Jeff. I love picking the brains of some of our experts in terms of how do you counsel some of these younger people when they're wanting to expand, but maybe they're just not. It's not that they're not there yet, but you're still wanting to help protect them, maybe is the right word, cautiously.
That's well said. But I also had a question that came up before we do rapid fire. Narendra, it seems like everywhere I'm going to meetings, Dr. Guido Laporta's name comes up, and we're so looking forward to getting him on the podcast. Can you tell us a story or two about his leadership, how he mentored you, how he instilled confidence in you and competence, just because his name is synonymous with excellence in our profession?
Oh, talk about a great leader. So it actually, the way I got to him was very fortunate. When we were doing our residency match, I did not match on the first try. And so then we were doing the whole scramble thing and coming up. And at that time, the New York College wanted to create an affiliation in Binghamton, New York, and with Dr. Laporta. And at that time, both myself and Dr. Scott Pickett, we both applied for that, and we both got it. And that's how we sort of met him. And we did 1 year there. And what he basically promised the New York school is that he would then take one of us to continue with him in Scranton. So I luckily got to go with him in Scranton and spend 2 more years. But then, not to screw over my friend, he created a PSR 12, is what it was called back then. So he got a surgical year, he got his regular year, and so that's how that happened. And so that's how we got together. And when we ran the clinic in Johnson City, or Johnson City, part of Binghamton, whatever, they did not have a program. They had a residency program. They didn't have a podiatry program. They had an osteopathic program. So they wanted to start a clinic, and so we started our clinic, and we essentially, Dr. Pickett and I essentially created this. We had the attendings there, and we ran with that, and so we created this phenomenal thing. And then we obviously had the opportunity to work with Dr. Laporta in his office, and we just continue with that learning experience. The guy is a master. I mean, I remember one thing specifically, we never cared about procedural names. So it's not like we're going to do a Dwyer. We're going to do it. It was always, well, what does this person need? And it was always those one-on-one interactions in front of the old classic X-ray view boxes, and pull that X-ray up, and we're just looking at it, and just, he always loved to hear what we thought, what are good or bad. And then that interaction, and then him letting you go, and do these procedures, and give us a lot of, freedom to do it. It's a great learning experience.
Sounds like a great opportunity. And you were at the forefront. Is that kind of when he started his surgical residency program then? Or was it was going before that? It wasn't.
Yes. So he had the Scranton program that had already been there.
Gotcha. Okay.
So I don't know how long he had that program, but yeah, but that's when he started the second one, because he had two offices. He had an office in New York, and he had an office in Scranton, and basically where he lived, he was halfway in between, so he could go either office. And whatever he couldn't do in New York because of the New York limitation on ankle, he just did in Scranton, and that's how he worked.
That's fantastic. All right, Joe, I'm ready for rapid fire questions.
All right, I'm going to start. All right, Narendra, one we ask a lot of people, music in the OR. What kind of music do you listen to?
Oh, totally electronic. 100%. It's always
Awesome.
upbeat. Everybody wants to be in our room. My assistant is in charge, and he has his own YouTube page where he basically just curates all of the latest and coolest new sounds, and all these not podcasts, but these music casts that they do, and our room is pumping all the time.
Fantastic.
I love it. Narendra, I go to Wisconsin all the time. I grew up in Wisconsin, so I'm going to fly through Chicago. You and I are going to go out for dinner. What's your favorite restaurant that we're going to go to in Chicago?
What kind of food now? Because you got to remember, Chicago.
Don't matter. I'm good for everything.
All right. So classic steak place is Steak 48. And it's just been a phenomenal, reproducible place that we always tend to go to. And now we actually just got our first Michelin star Indian restaurant.
Oh,
it was mind-blowing. I mean, for an Indian to
awesome.
say that about an Indian restaurant, it says a lot. And it's spelled weird. I'll give them a little plug. It's Indian, Indienne. And do you know what butter chicken is?
Yeah.
no, I have not had it.
Indian food is one of my favorite foods. My dad traveled to India with his best friend. So I grew up, believe it or not, my mom, actually, here's a funny side story, would try to make Indian food in Arizona when I was 10, and she couldn't find naan. So she used flour tortillas, and it's just hilarious because my sister and I now, we make the joke that we want a flour tortilla to go with our chicken masala.
Yeah. So classically, Jeff, butter chicken and chicken tikka masala, they're basically just chicken that's made in this specialized clay oven. It's called a tandoori oven, and then it's mixed with the sauce that creates this beautiful tomato rich base sauce. And one has more of a heavier butter, and then the other one tends to be a little bit more flavorful and spice and stuff. But typically you just get it in a little bowl. But the presentation that they had at this, because don't forget, it's a Michelin star restaurant, so think of how all these Michelin stars do it. They always make things look so weird, but it was a great tasting menu. I highly recommend for Joe, if you do come, make sure you get reservations there. You'll absolutely enjoy that. And for Jeff, I would take you out to Steak 48 anytime.
Steaks are dime a dozen. I'm in on the Indian food. No problem.
Yeah.
Nice.
Okay.
Nice. Yeah.
So now we have to make a point to go to Chicago, Jeff, because I really want to go here.
Absolutely.
Done. On me, guys.
All right, Joe, your turn.
Okay. So favorite place you've ever traveled and why?
Spain. I went to Madrid And I was actually out there for another conference, believe it or not. And we had a little opportunity to teach our Spanish colleagues. And naturally, if I take a long trip like that, I'm going to extend it. So I was there with our friend that were in that group, and oh my God, what a beautiful walking city that is. I mean, just going around the history and everything. And then we took a little side excursion to this town called Toledo, like Toledo, Ohio, and just the cobblestone up and down, and just I am passionate about photography. It's one of my side things I like to do. I love taking pictures, so I post all that stuff on my Instagram, and it's just all the places I've traveled, and there's just something about it, the food, the people, the energy that was there. I absolutely loved. I love Madrid.
Yeah.
That's fabulous. I was there once. We went to the oldest Botin, I think, the oldest restaurant in Europe, right?
Yes, they have the oldest restaurant there. We went there too.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Yeah. It was unbelievable. The sangria was out of this world. Not to mention all the suckling pig and things.
All the crazy jamon.
Oh my gosh, it's so fun. And that was one of the highlights. I think it was talked about in one of Hemingway's books too. All right, I got one for you, Narendra. Excuse me. What was one of life's great aha moments for you?
Ooh,
No pressure.
yeah, no pressure on that one.
Well,
That's a big one, Jeff. That's a great new one.
I've been working on these, Joe. I've been hanging around, not
Yeah.
doing a lot last weekend or so, watching basketball.
I'm trying to think if it's something surgical or if just something in my life. But
We could go both directions if you want.
you caught me off guard on that one. That's a good one. My aha moment. Probably when the ankle replacement. I mean, prior to that, honestly, we were just fusing, and up to that point, nothing was out there that was, and even the first generation was pretty crappy, but at least it was like, oh my God, I cannot believe that we can actually do this in an ankle. And now you think you got this chip on your shoulder. Now you feel like an orthopedic surgeon. So I think from professionally, that was sort of my aha moment there. Personally, I don't think I have a good aha moment for my personal life.
We'll pull that one out next time we interview you.
Okay.
All right.
I'll have to work on that one.
Yeah. No problem. No problem. Joe, you're up.
All right. So something that you used to do as a child that you could still do now, like a hobby or something that you love doing, but even better if you don't still do it now, that maybe people don't know about you.
So I love external fixation and I love using my hands. And so this all came from obviously erector sets and the Lego sets and all those things like that. And working with my dad, I mean, he was the person that just did everything. He repaired everything. He figured out how to do things. So I would help him with cars, and we would be changing carburetors, alternators, and timing belts, and then we completely flip and we would completely change the plumbing in the house because it was all galvanized, and we wanted to switch over to copper. And so he learned how to do all that, and just working with him and doing all those things. I was always working with my hands, so I think that kind of helped me get to where I am and do what I do now. Is I just need to be building. I need to be fixing things.
Oh my gosh! So your destiny was set early.
Oh yeah, definitely. Well, I mean, it was kind of forced on me too. I mean, it's an Indian family. You're either a doctor or a lawyer or an engineer, or you own nothing. So I chose being a doctor.
There you go.
So,
hey, people only raise up to the level of expectation. So there you go.
absolutely.
All right. Well, Joe, any last words on your end?
No, my final question or closing thoughts would be advice that you would have for prospective students out there about the field of podiatry.
Yeah, I would say get in touch with people that want to teach and educate. We allow a lot of shadowing opportunities. So we have students that come to our office and prospective high school students. And we just had one just the other day. And I was jokingly tell her, I said, "Are you sure you want to go into medicine? Let me tell you a few things about medicine. All right, let's go over to my billing sheet. let's talk about this insurance thing. Let's talk about what I have to do to get pre-certified. I try to scare her out of it, literally. But at the same time, at the end of the day, it was just showing her about what we actually do and take care of people and how thankful they are. And then you change people's lives, from a simple ingrown toenail to somebody's leg that you save. I mean, you're making people happy. So I always try to encourage that in students.
And I love that you're transparent, because no one here is out to say that medicine is perfect. I mean, that's very clearly not the case in the current system. But
Yeah.
despite all of that, we have so many people that have found joy in practicing what they love doing. So I like that you share all of those sides with someone, because we wouldn't want anyone to feel like they got kind of catfished into this profession. So
Totally. I
I love
mean,
that.
look, yeah, we all have the same notion. We want to help people, and that's is very honorable, but you can help people by doing other things too.
Yeah.
But it's nice to know what you're going to get into, because all the stuff that we are dealing with now, we didn't really have that much. And I don't think that if anyone ever told me, oh, by the way, you're going to have to do all this stuff, that would have dissuaded me. But it's just more relevant now. And I just
Yeah.
think people should know that.
I agree. And also, what Joe and I have found interviewing all these leaders in our profession is that there's a common theme of helping people and giving back. And it's just incredible, the amount of talent and the empathy and the desire to do well on behalf of their patients, like the courses and the lectures. And my gosh, it's just such a phenomenal profession. And there's something to be said about somebody come in, they can be a big fish in a small pond too. I mean, we only graduate 550 students a year, and there's opportunity everywhere.
Absolutely. And you guys are doing a phenomenal job and continuing that progress as well.
Well, thank you, Narendra. To all of our listeners out there, if you're listening on Apple or Spotify, please give us a 5-star rating. And if you're watching on YouTube, by all means, become a subscriber. Narendra, we're going to give you a Dean's Chat mug. I've got a little Baco logo on there too.
Looking forward to it.
And you drink your beverage of choice, morning, afternoon, and evening. Sounds good. And Joe and I will continue, of course, to bring the leaders in our profession. And like Joe says, the most interesting people don't have the straight line curve. So thank you, Narendra. I appreciate all you do for our profession.
Oh, I appreciate that. And if I can facilitate getting you in touch with any other my contacts that I have, I'd be more than happy. And I'm so glad that Dr. Laporta, is willing to do this. I can't wait to hear his story.
Oh, we can't wait to interview. It's going to be great. Yeah. All right. Cheers, everybody. See you next week. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Have a good night.